Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Hi, and welcome to Common Ground. I'm your host, Ashley Hall. On this week's episode of Common Ground, Pat Becker shows us how she creates her silent walkers using furs from different animals. We head to Outing, where archaeological discoveries are shared and studied at the Outing Trade Route Celebration. Plus, get a taste of the annual traditions of Beanhole Days in Pequot Lakes.
My name is Daryl Wegscheid, and active with our lake association called RALALA, which is Roosevelt and Lawrence Area Lakes Association. My wife is president of the association, and through that process we got working with Cass County on a lake management plan. I got to meet John Sumption, and one of the things they both value is community. John had retired from Cass County, and I called him last March and just said, "How you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm glad you called, because people wanted to know if we could make some introductions to some of the property owners around Lake Roosevelt." Yeah, I said, "Well, what for?" Well, he said they thought they may need a spot to camp over at night with this canoe caravan. Really? What canoe caravan? Well, some of the guys have got a bunch of birch bark canoes and they want to come up the lake and eventually possibly make this area a canoe trail. But for now, they just wanted to retrace the steps of Joseph Nicolay. And I said, "Retrace the steps? What do you mean?" Well, Nicolay, 175 years ago, came through here to map the upper regions of the Louisiana Purchase. And he followed an ancient 4,000 to 5,000-year-old native trade route. And at this point, he's got me hooked.
And I finished my map, this map, when I was 43. So I was 57 years old, and right after I finished my map, I died. I had, I finished my map and I died.
And then John said, "So do you think you can make some introductions?" I said, "Let me talk to some people." I got 2 sentences into this description, and our people said, "Why don't we put a fundraiser together with an event that would somehow make this all happen?" So with that, the Historical Society, Grant Golds, Jim Jones, the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council, Pat Emerson at the Minnesota Historical Society, any number of resources, is almost too deep to list, but the DNR folks at Catholic State Park got involved, the local Chamber of Commerce, the local Lions Club, businesses around, and everybody said, "Well, yeah, let's do something for the community." And so it's kind of all evolved from that. Just a lot of people stepping forward and saying, "What can we do? What can we help?"
We need to join 2 pieces of bark together, where you can see some of those where the ends we had to make the bark taller. And you see those.
My name is Kim Zielinski, and I am the author of a book called The Woods at Crooked Creek. The book is an archaeological analysis and research of the Outing area, and I'm doing a book signing. It's important to study the lifeways of the past so that we can build our own future and that we're respectful of the things that are around us and what's happened in the area that we're in. This event has been a great collaboration of a lot of different types of people. Whether it's the local citizens, people visiting the area, state representatives from the History Center, archaeologists from all over, and very, very prominent archaeologists. And the Native Americans, it has just been a really good group of people that came together to pull this off. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's important to not only record what we're able to find from past groups that have lived in this area for so long, but it's also important to record the stories. And so I would urge people to write down the stories from their grandparents, great-grandparents, because they're going to be lost. And you know, we're becoming so modernized that I think we tend to forget where we came from, and putting maybe a little more respect into how our ancestors lived.
Right now it's kind of looking like a knife. Very interesting hobby. Yeah, we're kind of working on. Any questions?
Boys, you got a question?
Well, get back to.
See how sharp that was, cutting his leather?
What happens here is like this is the reason this thing is so long is because I can get more body force into it. So.
Let's go cut.
What I'm doing is obviously you're talking and interrupted quite a bit, and you're repeating the same thing time after time. So it takes, you know, it takes. Which is like this in about 40 minutes. So you know, attention is a big item here, I guess.
I am working on making a replica pot, and what I'm doing is I'm rolling out coils of clay into coils, and you look at this vessel here. This is early woodland pot. The way the pottery is all done is you start from the top of the vessel and you work your way down to the bottom. So you look at that vessel and working your way up. And the main thing I gotta always kind of think, keeping consistent is that's a pretty good sized pot, and that's going to grow to about this size, and it should be just about that big when I get done. You know, something a colleague of mine, here's an interesting concept on what an elder had from northern Manitoba had told him. On the cover of their book in this pottery publication, it shows a woman on the front holding a vessel up like this, because the story is that the oval pot is shaped like a woman carrying a child. Now the other thing that they told him about the top of the decoration and the cord wrap paddle is that it represents and looks like an umbilical cord. So anyone that's a mother and that's given birth or watched their child be born will know what I'm talking about.
My name is Pat Becker, and I'm the creator of what I call Silent Walkers. And that story is because, well, the animals are silent. I use fur coats from Goodwill and things that have no use for other people. And so most of the things that I try to use are recycled, even the scraps of fur that I get from Montana. So in my head, we're talking about things that are silent now, but they have a new life because I basically have resurrected them and created something new from them. So that's where I get the joy. In Montana, there's a place that makes mucklucks and fur hats, and I found them on the internet a couple of years ago, and they have scrap furs that they buy or that they sell by the pound. So this is how it comes. And basically this is all coyote. Sometimes there'll be beaver and fox, but it's just pieces. And they have no use for it. It's perfect for what I do because this can be a collar, this can be a beard. Most of the things come from fur coats or from scrap furs. But once in a while I will need, this is called a blanket. This is rabbit. And this is Calgon sheep. Okay, it's kind of a short little twisty kind of, it comes in black or white, but and just regular sheep. But this is part of a possum coat, and it's really soft. But you'll see the backside, a lot of fur coats are all small little pieces that are all sewn together. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of work that somebody went through to make this coat. And, you know, I appreciate that. I have some fox, I have beaver, for example. See, you can see this is part of a mitt, but it was at a garage sale, you know, so purchase it. It's lovely. My guys come in various sizes. You'll see, this is one of the smaller ones, and he's trimmed in, this is beaver, and this is mink, and this is some Icelandic sheep with a little fox mustache, and this is otter. So it's kind of like little scraps. This is the form that I use, and again, it's recycled lumber. And my husband cuts them out for me, and we string them with wire. All the coats are hand sewn. I don't know, it's a way for me to relax, so I sew everything by hand. The coat will go on the stick, like for example, okay, this guy. And then we attach a head, and then I'll decide what kind of fur to trim them with. This little guy is a work in progress, and he's trimmed in rabbit right now. Every one of my silent walkers is different from all the others. It may differ because it has a different fur trim, maybe it has a different hat, or something will be slightly different. I buy no more than 2 yards of any kind of material most of the time, and I shop around for a lot of variety, but the colors will kind of depend upon what the material is and what I have available. I do glue the fur on. It adheres. You can't really make a mistake because once you have it glued on, you can't get it off again. Okay, so I get some hair. Because this is the kinky side, this is the straight side, I'll take some of that, turn it around, okay. Put it on the front of his mustache. Then I need just a little bit of this. And I twist it around the middle so it'll look like that. Okay, then on the back side, we put glue. And then we squeeze it in the middle. Now he needs a nose. And so I make the noses out of a clay. The nose adheres the mustache to the guy. Okay, so now he's completed that way. Then my next process will be to find, okay, what are we going to use for his cape or his collar? This is mink, and it was part of a mink collar that a woman sent me. So and on the back you have to take off the lining, or I take off the lining, I should say, and I've kind of glued down the little edging of the material on the back. So what I do is I kind of look to see, okay, I kind of like this, because this is going to be one of these all white guys. So sometimes it takes me a while to kind of figure out, okay, do I like it or don't I like it? And I'll look at it from a couple of sides. But because I had kind of decided on this, then what I'll do is, again, I glue the middle part. And you wrap it around so that it looks nice, and sometimes you have to gather it a little bit. Then you go to the one side and go to the other side. Okay, so now what I will do is I want to trim the head. And again, I do the middle. And there you have the little pom-pom hat. We have our guy, but we need a stick, don't we? Oh, I like this one. Okay. And I've old fish line that you don't need anymore, so, or you just go rob your husband's fish line in the back room. And you string it on. So that'll hang. Okay, so now I would look at this, but I don't think it's quite complete. It doesn't look full enough. So I'll want to add a couple more pine cones to it. Eventually, I'll put some berries and some cones. And one of the very last things that I do, so that he comes alive, and my husband loves this part, is he has to have eyes. And this you have to do very carefully, because if you flub up, I find that I almost hold my breath. And so, the little eyes. Why I like my craft is because it has a wonderful appeal to me. I can touch things, but I can create things. And the fact that people enjoy them, and they find, they collect them for, it's like, I can't believe that. I've really been totally blessed with this, because it allows me to be creative, to meet wonderful, wonderful people that I've met throughout these past 18 years. And the fact that they think enough to save their fur collars for me, or to tell me where they have placed my silent walkers in their house. It's a surprise. It's a never-ending joy for me. This is the little storyboard that I write and I attach to each one, and it goes like this. It kind of summarizes. The caribou roam the land of the tundra. The cry of the coyote and wolf can be heard in the stillness of the night. And the beaver and mink dwell in the quiet recesses of clear, unexplored lakes and rivers. But many are silent now, yet not entirely vanished into the closets, trunks, or forgotten corridors of a closet. And through the making of a silent walker, their spirit has been transformed. God's marvelous creation has taken on a new form and walks again, silently spreading joy and smiles. It is with this joy that silent walkers are created. Each is different, made entirely by hand from fur, leather, wood, and clay, collected from as far away as Alaska or as close as the Goodwill and Salvation Army store. They do have the appearance of an old world, turn-of-the-century St. Nicholas, a Santa of old before the department stores, the runway of lights, and the clatter and clutter of modern day. This creation of joy is made to remind you that all things can be transformed into new life. Enjoy, and in the silence of the midnight hour, Santa may be roaming the halls and corridors of your home.
The history of Beanhole Days actually started here in 1935 or 1934 when the community started serving beans on Wednesday to all the tourists that came up here to show their appreciation for the tourists, because this is a tourist town. So they'd bake some beans in the ground and people would come into town and have a Beanhole Day. And it kind of carried on through the years, and they didn't do it during the war. That's some of the few years that didn't happen. You know, there just wasn't enough people around it, and the bean holders are a real particular group of people. I mean, it's kind of like a special cult that you have to have the recipe and you have to know the procedure, and so it takes a while to learn how to do this. Well, those fellows who got into the service, you know, we didn't have Beanhole Days here. I moved into this town 35 years ago in 1986. Around that time, they weren't burying the beans in the ground. They were putting canned beans in a kettle and warming them up and serving them with hot dogs. I sat down one night in a cabin over on Sibley Lake with the people that used to do the original beans, with the shades pulled in this cabin, 6 o'clock in the evening. These people gave me the recipe. I had to vow not to tell it. And so we started doing the bean holes with the original beans again behind the coal building here with 2 kettles. Through the years, with our bean hole crew, a trained group of fellas, digging the holes, lining them with rocks, burning oak wood in the holes to heat them up good, and developing the process again, as they used to do in the old days, to do the beans. To the point where it grew to serving 2,500 people, just like we're doing today. You know, people like to know about these beans, so we have a little nostalgia with them. We stir the beans with a paddle. These big kettles are named after our heritage: Ole, Lena, Sven, Olga, and they all have different sizes, so you have to put different amounts of beans and ingredients in the kettles. These beans are shipped to us from the state of Washington, from Central Bean Company, and then there's a big number of beans. Well, how many sacks of them? Like maybe around 200 pounds. I'll say around, because I can't give out the regular recipe. And a lot of bacon, good thick bacon, and some other ingredients, like molasses, salt, so forth, onions, dried onions. But you learn how to mix this up, preheat the kettles a little bit, put them in the ground overnight for 12 hours. We've got big steel covers over the top. In our younger days, we had a bean spreader bar that was a big 4x6 long piece of lumber, and we could lift that up on our shoulders, 8 of us, and carry that 400-pound kettle full of beans to the hole and set them down. The spreader bar started to bend. It's got a nice bend in, but as we got older, we had to start using a backhoe. So we made a regular hook for the backhoe to lift the kettles in and out of the hole and to set them in their containers. Like I said, with a good operator. You don't want to dump a kettle of beans. It's been a real big event for the community. Pequot's kind of known for the Beanhole Days and the beans that we serve. Well, it's a family tradition for the people that work in the bean hole, for the crew. I'd have to proudly say that we did this for 20 years and we retired, and the new crew that we forward the recipe to and are doing the bean hole now do it just like we do to produce the same type of beans. Now, there still are tourists that come on a regular basis to come here for Beanhole Days. There's other tourists that come from we've had people from all over the world here. And it is special. What makes them so good is we got the right recipe, and then slow cooking them in the ground for 12 hours. Anything that you slow cook is going to be good. Those kettles are sealed. They hold all the moisture, hold all the flavor. It's great. By 2:30, all these beans will be gone. 200 gallons. And we started with 1 kettle, and now we're up to 5. And right, some years we only use 4, some years we use 5. But these are these big black cast iron kettles. I can't lift one myself. And you know, every year before we start, we power steam them, put them away. We got a regular process to clean them, oil them, store them in a place where they can't be removed, let's say. It takes some real care. The nice thing about bean hole days, it's the type of job you have, you know. You don't have to have a full-time position to do this. Your last 2 days, you know, you cook the beans, you serve the beans, you clean up, the job's done. And you've had a lot of fun doing it.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you next week right here on Common Ground. If you have a segment idea for Common Ground pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org or call us at 218-333-3022. To view this episode or any Common Ground segment, visit us at lptv.org/Common Ground. For individual segments or copies of Common Ground, please call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4th, 2008. If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.